Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Spirit Daughter podcast. I'm Jill Winterstein, aka Spirit Daughter, and today I'm deep diving into chart basics. So you hear me talk about charts a lot in this show. I go over people's charts, and I think for some it sounds like I'm speaking a different language. And in some ways it is. Astrology is a language of its own, but it's a language you can learn and understand in your own life. So in today's episode, I'm going to break down the key components of your natal chart. Let's start, though, by understanding, first of all, what is a natal chart? So a natal chart is a picture. It's a snapshot of the sky when you were born. It shows you where all the planets, including the sun and the moon, were and what sign they were in the moment you took really your first breath. And that's what astrologers say about when the chart actually inhabits the body. It's when a baby takes its first breath. We pull in the energy of the cosmos that is currently available to us, meaning where the sun is, where the moon is, where Mercury is, where Venus is, into our energetic body. And yes, that moment is perfectly timed. It happens exactly as it needs to. There are no bad charts. If you came early, if you came late, if you came via C-section, it's all exactly how it was supposed to be. Your soul chose that exact moment in that exact way for you to take your first breath and take in the energy of the universe that your soul needed for its energetic evolution this lifetime. So there's no off charts, there's no bad charts. And I like to look at a chart and say, okay, wow, I can see what's going on. I can see where I need to evolve, where this person needs to evolve, or the opportunities to learn in this lifetime. So I feel like that's one of the misconceptions about natal charts is that we've come into this world knowing these energies, like mastered these energies. And that's not the case, at least what I've found. We're really learning most of our chart, and we're really here to evolve through our chart. And so that's why I like really looking at it as a tool to help us understand ourselves on a deeper level, our opportunities, our growth edges, and how we can and want to evolve this lifetime. So let's get into the pieces of the chart. And if you don't have your natal chart readily available, you can always head to our website to pull your chart at chart.spiritdaughter.com. But you're going to want to have your chart available for this episode so you can look at what I'm talking about in real time for you. So when you're looking at your chart, you'll see a wheel with 12 pieces in it. It's like 12 pieces of the pie. And on the outer wheel are the signs, and inside the wheel will be the planets. And so when we're looking at a chart, we're looking at those players. We're looking at the planets, including the moon and the sun. And we're looking at the signs, and we're looking at the houses. The houses are those pieces of the pie. And you can look down at the table, like if you're on our charting app, we have tables that tell you where a certain planet is, what house it's in, what sign it's in. So you don't have to know how to read the pie chart per se. But that's where the language and the art comes in, when you can look at a chart and say, oh, I see the Jupiter. It's in Leo in the 10th house, and you understand what that means. But the tables will guide you as well. I will say, too, before we really deep dive into these three components of a chart, learning a chart is a process, and learning how to read your chart or anybody else's is a process. It's not about just memorizing facts. It's about really understanding the language. It's about immersing yourself. And so you learn it over time. You learn it by listening to this show. You learn it by understanding where the moon is every day and what does that mean? What does that feel like? You learn it by understanding your friends' charts, maybe even casting their charts. That's how I learned how to read charts. Was I actually drew, because it was pre-app and pre-website. I would draw all of my friends' charts and place their planets in there and understand the symbols. I do think there's a benefit in actually drawing charts. But knowing your friends' charts, talking to them about it, right? Learning about it through time, not just in this like quick, I've got to sit down and like memorize all these things. It's a language. Immerse yourself in it. Learn it through time. So let's talk about all of our pieces of the chart. So we'll start with the planets. And so I like to think of these pieces as the players, right? These are pieces of your personality. So we have the sun, which is your core identity. It's your core essence. Most of us know our sun sign. If you're listening to this podcast, you most likely know your sun sign. It's also called your star sign. And so this is the center of you. I think about it. The sun is the center of our solar system. Your sun holds you together. And so if you feel lost or you need direction or you forgot who you are, go back to your sun sign. That's your core identity. That's your I am statements. That's your I am this, I am that. This is the center of me, brings me back when I feel scattered. Then we have the moon sign. Moon sign is all about your emotional needs. It's what you need in life to feel emotionally fulfilled, emotionally held. It's a more subjective part of you, meaning it's more internal. It might be very hard for you to talk about the feelings of your moon sign. Moon signs are about feeling, not words or logic. And oftentimes, this is the part of us that, maybe nobody else sees for a while, or it's the part of us when we're at home and in our PJs, this is what comes out, right? It's who we are behind closed doors in many ways is our moon sign. Our rising sign, so your rising sign is the sign that was rising on the horizon when you were born. And that is also called your ascendant, and it starts your chart. So your rising sign will always be on your first house cusp. It will always start your chart. Your rising sign is quite the opposite of your moon. Your rising sign is how you dawn on people. It's what's rising within you. It's what you project outward. It's what you're okay at first with people knowing about you. So when you first meet somebody, you show them your rising sign. Now, that doesn't mean you fully have embodied this. And many of our journeys this lifetime is to grow into our rising sign, let that energy really rise within us and become part of our personality. But at first, especially when we're younger, it's really what we're projecting outwards, how people are meeting us. And so that's your big three. So when I talk about the big three, that's what I'm talking about: the sun, the moon, and your rising. And then we have the rest of the planets. And like I said, these all feel like pieces of our personality. We have Mercury, which is your intellect. That's your mental realm. That's how you communicate. That's how you think. That's how you perceive things. Your perceptions are within your Mercury. We have Venus. So Venus is how you love, how you show love, how you receive love, what you find beautiful in this world, and how you take that beauty in. So how you attract things. I often look at Venus signs for manifestation because our Venus sign can show us how we attract things into our lives, including how we manifest. So that can be a key placement for understanding your manifestation style is Venus. And then we have Mars, right? Opposite of Venus. Mars is drive. Mars is passion. Mars is fire. So when people are like, how do I find my purpose in life? How do I align with my soul? How do I find my motivation? I look to their Mars. The Mars energy is what gets you up out of bed. It's what says, this is what I'm doing. I'm excited to do it. Maybe if I'm not even excited to do it, I know it's where I'm supposed to be. I'm going for it, right? Gives us that determined, focused energy, our Mars. And then we get to Jupiter. Jupiter, I will say Jupiter switches signs once a year. And so you may know a lot of people who have the same Jupiter sign as you. So as we get into more of the outer planets, you'll find that because they move more slowly, right? Mercury, Venus, and Mars move very quickly. And so they can be very personal to you. But most of the times we know somebody who has our similar Jupiter or Saturn because Jupiter stays in a sign for a year. So anybody born within a year of you might have the same Jupiter sign. Jupiter is all about expansion. So that's where we feel our potential this lifetime. And so I always look at Jupiter in a chart and say, okay, this is the person's potential. This is what they're here to really take space up in. And this might be where they sell themselves short. So Jupiter was almost a sun and it stopped itself right before becoming a sun. So it can show us the place in our lives and the quality in our lives where we might sell ourselves short, where we might not cross the finish line because of whatever reason. And so it's important to know your Jupiter. And then we get to Saturn. And Saturn takes about 2.5 to 3 years to switch signs. And so that's why a group of people, right, a class, go through their Saturn return together. Saturn return is when Saturn returns to the place it was when you were born. That happens every 28, 29 years. And so you'll go through your Saturn return with a group of people because you'll know people who have that same sign. But Saturn is your responsibility. It's your commitment. It's what you say yes to. And it's where you feel that responsibility in your life. So it's almost like a soul contract. And when I'm reading a chart, I look at Saturn and I say, okay, this is the soul contract. This is what the soul agreed to this lifetime. This is the commitment it made. You may not love it, but that's the commitment your soul made is your Saturn. And that's where you feel it, right? So you can see how these are all pieces, right? And then we get to Uranus. Uranus is the planet of change. It shakes things up. And Uranus stays in a sign for 8 years. So you definitely know people with the same Uranus placement. Uranus is where we get innovation, where we evolve our thinking, where we evolve our being. So I look at it in a chart and I say, okay, this is what the soul came to change in their energy this lifetime. And so looking at Uranus as that planet of change and evolution, it can feel shocking, but ultimately it's here to help us grow. And then Neptune. Neptune takes a very long time. So Neptune stays in a sign for 14 years on average. And so that is an entire generation. And I often think of the generations mapped to their Neptune sign, which could make a really great episode. I'm going to make a note of that because it's really fun to look at Neptune is in Sagittarius actually coincides with, Gen X. And then we can look at the different generations by where their Neptune is placed. So Neptune stays in a sign for a very, very long time. Neptune is always about visions, ideals. So you can see how this can really shape a generation where we have a generation with the same ideals or visions for society in the same area, in the same sign, in the same theme, an energy of life. And so Neptune really can show us where a generation's ideals and visions are. And then we get to Pluto, which I still consider a planet and always will. Pluto is the sign, the planet, the energy of transformation. So Pluto wants us to change. It stays in a sign for 20 years, so it really shapes society. And so Pluto shows us, okay, where are we transforming this lifetime? Where are we changing? Where are we maybe meeting some uncomfortable energy of transformation? And I will say where Pluto or Saturn lands in your chart is often where you feel the most tension. And it's not that these planets are bad. It's just that Pluto asks us to change and Saturn asks us to commit no matter what. And so you can see how that can create some tension within our lives. And so of all the planets, if somebody comes to me and they're saying, I'm feeling really stagnant or stuck or tense or I'm not aligned or things aren't flowing, I'll look at their Pluto and Saturn and be like, what's going on here? So those are the planets. Those are the main players. Now, those planets express themselves through the signs. And most of you know all about the signs, so I'm just going to quickly go through them. Signs are the most talked about in astrology. You've heard me talk about signs over and over again. But it's important to know that your Mercury, for instance, right, how you communicate is going to express itself through a sign. So I like to think of the zodiac signs as theming the planets, theming them, giving them an energy to move through. They're almost like a vehicle for them to move through, for you to move through in this lifetime. Right, so we have our fire signs. Let's just talk about fire signs. We have Aries, we have Leo, we have Sagittarius. A lot of energy here. Aries is all about fresh starts, new beginnings. Leo is all about leadership, right? Taking up some space, being that center stage leader, dealing with vulnerability. Sagittarius, adventurer. Sagittarian sun signs are here to find the adventure of life, find the higher meaning. No, there's no obstacles. There's no wrong or right path. There just is what there is. And then we have our Earth signs. We have Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. These are grounded. These are steadier than fire, right? Fire is always on the move. It's dynamic. Earth is going to be stable and steady, right? Taurus is all about the present moment, feeling into where we are, using all of our senses. Virgo is about healing in many ways. It's about understanding our inherent worth and feeling rooted and grounded in that worth. Capricorn is about our life's work, our legacy. What are we here to leave behind? Where should we place our focus the most? And then we have our air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Aquarius is one of those, we always think it's a water sign. It's actually an air sign. Air signs move quickly. They live often in the mental realm, and they really need to get into their breath, I'll say. Breathing and breath work, breathing techniques can really, really help all the air signs. So Gemini, the sign of the twins, always looking for different perspectives, communicating, always teaching us that communication helps us. We don't have to have all the pieces of the puzzle. Other people can provide them for us as well, but we need to talk to them, right? There's that communication piece. Libra is the sign of balance. It's the sign of being fair, of equality, of seeing the same side of two different coins, for instance, understanding that opposing truths can both be right, right? We think about the legal system a lot with Libra, but there's an interesting tone to it in that a lot of people I know that are Libra sun signs can hold two truths. They can sit in a room with two people and say, you know what, you're both are right. And they can see the truth and how those two seemingly opposite truths can come together. But again, we're in the air realm. We're in the mental realm here. And then Aquarius reminds us we're all connected through the air we breathe. Right? Aquarius, and often I like to think of Aquarius as like the sign of the future. It's always innovating. It's always progressing forward. It's always thinking about how can it help humanity grow. And then we get into our water signs. Water signs are deep and intuitive. Right? We have Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Right? Cancer is all about self-care, how we take care of ourselves, how we open to our intuition even though it feels vulnerable. Scorpio is all about how we go deep into feeling and alchemize our feelings, feeling the truth in them, right? Feeling that we can do anything with that energy. That energy doesn't have to weigh us down as long as we're willing to confront all of our energy, all of our emotions. And then we have Pisces. Pisces reminds us that we're connected to everything, that we are the universe is us. There is no separation. And that knowing can really, really help us heal. And there's a deep intuitive quality with Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer. And that doesn't mean if you're a Leo, you don't have, intuition. You have intuition. All the signs have intuition. It's just our water signs can teach us how to really take that intuition to the next level through feeling, because water signs feel a lot. So we have our planets, we have our signs. That's how that energy expresses itself, right? So if our Mercury's in Cancer, right, our communication expresses itself through maybe self-care, care of others, nurturing, through our intuition, through holding space for our intuition. So you can see how Mercury in Cancer would be very different than Mercury in Leo, for instance, right? Mercury in Leo is expressing its communication through leadership, through standing in the spotlight, through talking on stage, for instance. It's very different. So you can see how these start to shape your personality and the energies you hold, governed by your natal chart. And then we get to the houses. And so we have our planets, we have the sign that they're expressing themselves through, that's theming them, and they show up in the houses. The houses are the arenas of our life. They're the stage. And I love houses, but I find they're very misunderstood. And so I'm going to quickly go through them. First house, house of identity. And this starts with that rising sign. So this is how we portray ourselves to the world. This is how we define ourselves and want to be known as. This is how we also reinvent ourselves, is within the first house. Second house is all about abundance, possessions, resources, how you resource yourself, right, to create abundance through your worth, right? So worthiness shows up a lot in the second house. Third house is communication. That's how it's communication is the arena. So say we have that, say we have Venus in Leo in the third house. Venus, how we love, what we find beautiful, is being themed by Leo, right? That's going to be, Venus is always looking for, okay, Leo, we find that spotlight beautiful. Maybe we find something that is big and bold to be beautiful. A lot of people with Venus and Leo wear like big jewelry, for instance. And in the third house, that's going to show up in communication. So you're going to show up in how you communicate with big, bold, that's that Leo fire, with love, rooted in love. So maybe big gestures of love through big, bold actions in your communication house, in your third house. Fourth house is house of the home. So that is your internal home. That's your physical home. That can also be your family growing up. What was your home life like, right? That's going to be your fourth house. Fifth house is creativity. It's also children, so inner child. Also children that we have, that we create, creative expressions are all in the fifth house. Sixth house is about service, how you give your gifts to the world, right? How you value those gifts, how you put prices on your offerings, how you build routines and schedules and rituals that support your gifts and replenishing them within you so you can give them to others. Seventh house is partnerships. It's all about how we form unions. That's the area of our life, right? So if we have a planet and a sign and it's in the seventh house, it's going to show up in our partnership arena, in our partnerships. Eighth house is about personal growth, transformation, cycles of death, rebirth. It's also other people's money. So inheritance, taxes, debt, right? That is the area. You can think of houses as the container for the energy of the planet and the sign. Ninth house is all about travel. It's all about expanding our horizons, our consciousness. And we also find teaching and publishing here as well. So broadcasting outward. 10th house is all about career. That's your career house, your life's work, right? If you have planets in that house, they're going to show up. That energy is going to show up most prevalently in your career. 11th house is about community. It's about collective energy. It's about standing on a stage, not for the sake of just like leading or being seen, but actually bringing people together, right? Being a leader of some sort that brings minds and thoughts. I think of thought leader here, right? Together is in the 11th house. It's also where we find our beliefs. So if you've got some limiting beliefs, if you have some things that are really blocking your manifestation, look to your 11th house because that's the belief arena. And then 12th house is all about spirituality. So this is where we find our spiritual practices. And so we can really feel that spiritual practice and our dedication to spiritual practices, what spiritual practices serve us within our 12th house. So that's the houses. And if you don't have a planet in a house, that's fine. You still have that area in your life and it's still going to be themed by the sign that governs it. So you may, for instance, not have a planet in the 12th house, but it's themed by Virgo, right? So you're going to need a lot of routines and rituals and a lot of consistent work in your spiritual practices, meaning you're probably going to meditate at the same time every day. You still have that house, even if a planet isn't in there, and it's still themed by a sign. So there's your quick tour of the birth chart. I have a feeling I'm going to have to deep dive into each of these in further episodes. So get ready for that and let me know what you want to learn more about in future episodes. You can DM me. You can always find me on Instagram at Spirit Daughter. Let me know what you'd like to learn more about and deep dive even further. But just remember that your chart isn't about this is who you are and you can't change it. You always have free will. The stars don't dictate your future. They illuminate it. You can learn more about astrology, more about this show, more episodes on our website at spiritdaughter.com. And if you never want to miss an episode, don't forget to subscribe to wherever you listen or watch this podcast. Until next time, let the stars guide you.